CEEW, in collaboration with Clean, is bringing together ecosystem stakeholders through this webinar series to exchange ideas, experiences, and learning on how we can commercially scale clean tech-powered livelihood innovations. And today is the inaugural session of the series, which we have titled as From Innovations to Scale. We'll take you briefly through today's agenda. And so during today's session, we will begin with the fireside chat featuring three distinguished speakers from Plus Advanced Technologies, Balwan Kushi, and D-Line. During the fireside chat, these speakers will share their experiences of taking the livelihood innovations from early stages to market-led adoption. And this will be followed by a moderated Q&A session where we will dive deeper into their experiences and models. So before we begin, just a few housekeeping points. I'll request all the participants to kindly keep their microphones muted while the speakers are speaking. Please feel free to share your questions, comments, any resource or any document which you would like to share with the participants in the chat box throughout the session. And during the moderated Q&A, if you would like to ask a question directly, please feel free to raise your hand and the moderator will invite you. So with that context, let's get started. And without further ado, I would like to first invite Mr. Nitin Akhade, President Clean, to deliver the opening remarks. Nitin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Moshmi, and welcome you all for this exciting webinar series that is in jointly in partnership with CEEW and Clean. I think there is a lot to hear from the speaker, so I'll keep it very brief. Clean is a industry association formed back in 24 for promoting the interest of decentralized renewable energy enterprises in the country. And the topic of this today's session is also very timely, where we see a lot of innovation ecosystem getting built in India, but how to scale and have a sustained scale up. That always remains a challenge. So we have an amazing line of speakers who have made businesses happen in last couple of decades in the country, and we see how the young energy ecosystem in the country is growing, and the learnings from all the speakers will be really valuable to see what is the next growth phase, how the innovations really transform into sustained business, right? At the end of the day, we should have positive EBITDA also. So what it takes to have all this, I think it will be very interesting to hear from the speaker. So I keep it very brief. I really thanks to CEEW team and Clean team for pulling this and with our Independence Day also coming in next couple of days, we feel like this seminar also or webinar gives inspiration to the people to see how we take the next journey of our promoting clean energy or also sustained growth of enterprises. So I'll pause here again. Thank you all the speakers and the attendees, and really looking forward to the session. Over to you, Moshmi.
Thank you so much, Nitin, for your opening remarks. We will now move into the fireside chat, and I would like to invite our moderator, Ms. Nimisha Biswas, to introduce us to the distinguished speakers and also take us through the discussion. Nimisha, over to you.
Thank you, Moshmi, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first dialogue in the Powering Progress Global Dialogues on the Future of Clean Energy for Productive Use and Economic Opportunity series. I'm Nimisha Biswas from the Council on Energy, Environment and Water, Asia's leading think tank in the climate space. And it is a pleasure to moderate today's conversation, co-hosted by CEEW and Clean. Our dialogue today is From Innovation to Scale, Building Commercial Markets for Clean Energy for Productive Use Solutions. We have seen significant innovation in clean energy solutions for livelihood, from clean cooling and drying to agricultural equipment and productive use appliances. But the challenge we want to unpack today is what happens after the pilot. How do we move from demonstrating that a technology works to building a market around it? How do we create sustained demand, build viable distribution and service networks, unlocking financing, and ultimately make these businesses commercially sustainable? Because if we want these solutions to reach millions of enterprises and farmers, impact at scale will require markets at scale. And we have three speakers today who bring very different but highly relevant experiences to this question. So let me begin with Mr. Samit. Uh, our first speaker, Mr. Samit Jain, Director at Plus Advanced Technologies. Plus works at the intersection of material science, thermal energy storage, and clean technology with the applications across agriculture, food cold chains, healthcare, and climate technologies. Their experience with solutions such as solar cold rooms, solar dryers, and refrigerated transport gives us a particularly interesting lens on the challenge of commercializing clean cooling solutions. So, Mr. Samit, let me start with you. Plus has demonstrated a range of innovative clean cooling solutions. Could you take us through the journey of moving these solutions from innovation and successful demonstrations towards commercially sustainable markets? And from your experience, what business model or ecosystem interventions have been most critical in making that transition? And perhaps equally importantly, what have you learned about what customers are actually willing to pay for? Over to you, Samit.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Clean, as well as CEEW for this wonderful seminar that you're putting together. I think sharing of knowledge and experience is much needed now, given the rate at which things are progressing in our country, and with a lot of startups, a lot of people wanting to make an impact at the grassroots level. So to answer your question, yes, I mean, it's been over 10, 15 years that we have been in business and have learned a lot as we created solutions around cold chain for not just the organized sector, let's say the pharmaceutical sector, which is very organized, large companies, easy to work with, easy to scale. But the cold chain equally was extremely important at the farm level. So, about a decade back, the first solution that we created was really very simple boxes with our materials, which can be used for transport of fruits, vegetable, horticulture produce, flowers. And the biggest challenge which all of us face and will continue to face is the access of capital at the farmer level. So anything that you do, any product that you create needs, however small or large it is, it needs some money initially for giving the equipment to the farmer community or to the micro entrepreneur, which is trying to set up some small business. So the initial funding that we got for the cold chain applications, and that was essentially we used it for transport of flowers from the rural hubs to the mandis and the markets, was through grants, of course, with organizations. There are several of them that give you those pilot grants. But later, we within our team constituted a small group of people which would actively look out for CSR opportunities, which align with companies that have similar products which they want to take to the rural market. So if you're able to do that, then the CSR funding of these large organizations tends to match with their marketing requirements of creating a larger business opportunity for them. Uh, there are also a lot of rural entrepreneurs who tend to buy vehicles and run them. So can we get to, let's say, vehicle dealers and distributors where these vehicles get sold and then get converted into a cold chain vehicle, for example. So you have to try and see where your market is, what fits well with them, and how can you align it to the product that you want to sell. So that was one approach we took to increase the reach of our products, as well as enable the farmers to have access to the cold chain requirement. But it is a challenge. It is not easy. Today there are larger middle organizations. I don't want to use the word middlemen really, but there are these organizations that are collecting farm produce and then linking it to the market. So these become your people to go to be who could provide this at a small cost to the farmer. We later moved towards creating larger products like a cold room that you mentioned, or a dryer that you mentioned. And again, here it started with initial partnership with NGOs, with certain aids and grants that were coming in Northeast India. In fact, with Clean, Nitin supported us a lot in that initiative. And we used those once again to create small micro entrepreneur opportunities and linking them up with funding agencies. There are a lot of people, a lot of finance companies that are today giving loans at cheaper rates. So how do we create a small group of local entrepreneurs and enable them get that loan to buy the equipment and then serve it as a dryer, as a drying opportunity, where the value add really is the high value of a dried product compared to a fresh produce. So that is one thing that also worked for us. The third thing that we did to take it to scale really was in the cold chain segment, where you provide small ice pack equivalent materials for cold chain, linking it up on the GEM portal. That takes a while, but it worked for us. And then a lot of government agencies which are trying to procure and pass on these equipments or these solutions to the farm are able to reach out to you, and we do get a lot of requests over GEM. So I think if your product can be listed on GEM, that's one way of taking it forward.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, particularly your point about, getting products registered on GEM, because that kind of scales it, at once. And I think that's an important starting point, because often when we talk about scaling innovation, we focus on the technology being ready. But the real question is whether the market around that technology is ready.
That's right.
And Shailesh comes from a business that has had to solve precisely the challenge at an enormous scale. So, over to Mr. Shailesh Gupta, who is the group managing director, India and Global Partnerships at Delight. Delight has reached more than 190 million people across 70 plus countries, building its business around affordable clean energy, last mile distribution, and innovative financing models such as PayGo. So, Mr. Shailesh, you have had a very different experience of scaling, particularly when it comes to reaching customers who are geographically dispersed and highly price sensitive. What have you learned about building a last mile distribution model that can balance customer trust, affordability, after sales service, and importantly, commercial viability? And from your experience with PayGo and consumer financing, what is one lesson that productive use enterprises could take away to unlock demand and scale? Over to you, Mr. Shailesh.
Thank you, Nimisha. Thank you to the entire Clean and CEEW team for organizing this webinar and inviting me to be part of the discussion. It's a very enlightening discussion. I would want to say a few things before I could answer the question. One is the impact number is 213 million lives now. So maybe a few more million lives have been added in the last couple of months, or maybe the last 3 to 6 months time. So it's been a journey of transformation, not just in terms of lives which we are serving. It is also a journey for Delight per se, which started as a product organization primarily to provide a range of portable solar lanterns for eradicating kerosene for the purpose of lighting, from a product company to becoming a distributed renewable energy organization, and also a customer financing company in terms of the products. So that's where the innovation has happened over the last almost 19 years now. In terms of what has helped Delight to scale up, and I would start it from the first point. The core focus initially was on providing a very high quality product, which came along with a 3 years full replacement warranty, which means no questions asked. If the product is not working, full replacement. That built long-term loyalty. Alongside, a lot of investment went into building the infrastructure to support, and I can quote some numbers here. So despite offering a 3 years full replacement warranty in the beginning first 7-8 years, the overall replacement percentage, it remained well below 1%. So which really built a lot of trust at the customer's end, followed up by availability of the after sales service and an innovative network to leverage whatever was going on in terms of partnerships with whether it was a lubricant distribution company or a gas distribution company. And finally, as the world moved on, as the energy needs evolved, evolution of the product and evolution of the models under which we now serve the customers. I'll come to the current state of affairs when we are mostly selling pay-as-you-go products in Africa, and a large part of our sales in India happens through consumer financing model, whether it is through MFI or whether it is through the other consumer financing organization. The challenge to solve has been solving the affordability part of the value chain here. And so pay as you go is just one part of it, which is the product innovation or technology. Okay. And I'm drawing some lessons from our business in Africa, where our organization solved this challenge of affordability and sustainability through financial innovation, where we securitized the receivable part of the business through an innovative special purpose vehicle, which we started working along. So just to explain the challenge here is that as a pay-as-you-go organization, let's say if we are selling a product at $300, the customer only pays a part of it, which is $15, $20 upfront. The balance of the money, it comes over a period of time, and that period of time could be 12 months to 24 months. As a product organization, we are expected to pay this money, if not within 30 days, maybe over 60 days or 90 days. And minded that the products which get sold, for example, in a country like in a continent like Africa, they are largely Chinese. So the supply chain model requires a huge amount of investment for even the pay-as-you-go operations to be successful. Now, the challenge to be solved here is that a limited size funded organization, they will go dry on their funds. They don't have endless financing happening for them. So that's where the securitized financing of the receivables happen, where the upfront part of receivable is solved to an extent that the product company receives the money from certain investors through that special purpose vehicle. Delight on other side continues to service the customer, and the quality of receivables has to be continuously received by the organization here. So the model allows receiving of money, a sizable portion of money to be received, and the customer continues to get the money. So it's a big amount of financial innovation, which actually made D-Light to continue servicing millions and millions of customers in Africa. So this is one part of the story in Africa. India is largely, it has been an impact-driven organization. Our business in India has been more impact-centered. So for example, out of the 213 million lives which we have impacted in overall globally, around 82 million lives have been transformed in India. So a sizable portion has come in. And it has come largely so far through solar torches, solar lanterns, not so much from the large size systems, which can cater to the productive usage for renewable energy generation. But having said that, that too also has happened, 70-75% of that has happened through the microfinance financing part of the business. So which means financing is very, very critical for creating a scale in any business. When we move forward, government is doing its bit. World Bank is doing its bit to allow the scale up. For example, recently we saw that World Bank has invested $890 million. They have committed to India under the Pradhan Mantri Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. So which means that the program is successful, it will continuously get funded. Now, so the consumer financing parts get solved here, but the bigger challenge would be the top end also, which needs to get solved moving forward. Suppliers like D-Light, or for that matter, any organization, we would always have a limited size balance sheet. And for a scale up, you would require the funding to happen, not just at the base of the pyramid, even at the top of the value chain. So that's the route to success for D-Light so far. Yeah, we can discuss more on this as we move forward. So that was one bit from me.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. And I think, the point around building trust in customers and the importance of financing is particularly relevant for productive use technologies, because here we are not just selling an energy product. We are asking a farmer or a micro enterprise to make an investment because they believe that investment will improve their income or productivity. So the customer has to see a very clear economic value proposition, and the ecosystem has to make that investment possible. And that brings me to our third perspective, Mr. Rohit Bajaj, who is the co-founder and CEO of Balwan Krishi, which has built a business around making farm mechanization more affordable and accessible to small and marginal farmers. Balwan Krishi now reaches around, almost 12 lakh farmers across 29 states and 360 districts, supported by a network of around 720 dealers. What I find particularly relevant for our discussion is that you have had to solve a challenge very similar to what many productive use energy enterprises face. How do you reach a fragmented rural customer base while making sales and after sales commercially viable? So, Rohit, entrepreneurs often face a difficult trade off here. Digital channels can generate demand across geographies, but without a local presence, after sales becomes difficult. On the other hand, building teams, dealers, and service networks requires significant upfront investment. How do you think about this trade-off in Balwan's early years, and what would you suggest to entrepreneurs, today who are trying to decide where to invest directly and where to build partnerships? Over to you, Rohit.
Great question, Nisha. So basically, what I understand from the question is to go digital first or to go offline, right? And we need to understand the startup which route to take first. So I'll brief you our case. It is a difficult choice for any startup with a limited capital given at an early stage. In today's era, what's happening? You need to be omni-channel, right? You need to be present at offline, online, both. But to start with, online is the cheaper channel because number one, you get the validation through the initial customers, which you can use as an example to create your offline distribution in a simpler way, if I frame it. So any startup or to be going for a startup, I strongly suggest to go D2C or B2C first. Have some initial interest from the client, then replicate that too, then figure out why dealer would got on board through your channel, and then you can sell to via the dealer network. That exactly what we did in Balmar. Good, good it's been 10 years now we're into this category. Good 3 to 4 years. Initially, we were only D2C. We scaled it 30, 40 crore. And selling 40 crore to 40 crore in value, it's a bit good amount. And then we started our B2B journey where we onboarded our dealers or retailers or network who can after sale or do the service for the farmers. And now we scaled from 30 to 200 till today, which is our turnover. So that is where I suggest you get an initial traction D2C, get a brand known to many of the people, because online marketing, at least people are familiar enough to know your name, and then go to B2B, because as you said very rightly, dealer and offline ecosystem is pricey. So with that initial interest, you can raise some money and then go to offline. So that's what we do exactly.
That's a useful point, particularly around, how to navigate and, balance both. And I think we are beginning to see a common thread across these three experiences. Whether we are talking about clean cooling, distributed solar, or farm mechanization, like that, here what we have seen through the conversation is that the technology is only one part of the equation. The real scaling challenge is about building the market around it, understanding the customer, creating the demand, building distribution, financing the purchase, and ensuring that the product continues to deliver value after the sale as well. So now I'd like to bring all three of you into the same conversation. So we have heard about the technology and business models, distribution and financing, and the importance of local networks and after sale services. But these businesses don't operate in isolation. There is an entire ecosystem around them, right? So there are investors, financiers, distributors, policymakers, uh, government programs, manufacturers, customers. So I'd like to ask each of you the same question, and perhaps we'll see where your answers converge or where they differ. So starting with you, Samit, if you could change one thing in the ecosystem tomorrow to accelerate the commercial scale of livelihood innovations at the last mile, what would it be?
Amiji, you are on mute.
Samit, sir, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. I was saying that, that's a difficult question because choosing one is going to be tough. There are just too many things that need to be changed today. But if I have to pick one, I think the single most critical change that is needed is the establishment of some kind of a patient capital or a risk sharing fund, if I can use that word, which is combined with the last mile distribution cooperatives that are being set up. The reason really is that the risk in last mile is very high, and then if there is any failure, then nobody wants to take that risk. So can the government back that risk, allowing entrepreneurs to try out different business models? And these entrepreneurs are not the ones in the cities, right? They're the ones sitting at the village level, not having done much earlier, may not have had much exposures, but they are the ones who have the connect in the local communities. They are the one who can convince and sell products at that level, right, or provide a service at that level. They need to be backed. They need to be given a risk capital which is completely backed by the government or some form of agency that is set up to take that. And it's not a large amount for India, I feel. So that is something that I feel can make a big difference.
That's interesting, and thank you. So you're essentially saying that establishment of a risk sharing fund by the government or any other agency to absorb the risk for the entrepreneur if things go wrong.
That's right.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Um, so Shailesh, coming from the perspective of a company that has already built large scale last mile markets, what would be that one change for you?
So I'll echo what Samit mentioned. Selecting one would be very, very difficult. So I would rather pick up two important ones, which probably might be relevant here. So one is uh, slightly an extension of the risk capital or the patient capital, which Samit mentioned. I, I would recommend that if government can create a support at the top end. Okay? So while at the bottom end, there is a lot of support from government. There is a lot of promotion happening on the utility of solar power for PURE. People are aware of it. Okay, there is a demand side promotion. Consumer financing is there. Banks are giving loans at the rate of 6, 7, 8% to the end consumer under the Pradhan Mantri Surya Ghar Yojana, which is financing, and even at the enterprise level also this it is happening. At the top end, particularly with the smaller enterprises, businesses, there is no support. They will certainly run out dry on their funds. So if there could be a similar securitization financing available through some sort of a regulatory change, it will be great for the businesses to scale up the supply side. Uh, so that's one. The second point which I thought is that when we are innovating uh, on renewable energy, solar energy, there is also a lot of carbon asset development which is happening, which should create a lot of funds, and it should that market is completely absent right now in India. If you look at it, while it was there, but it was not reliable. So if that can be created, it'll self fund the overall ecosystem enhancement in future, and that fund should be made available to the consumer or to the entire value chain. So it boils down to the money. The ecosystem will be lubricated by money. So that's what I feel.
Thank you so much. And I think that's an interesting, complementary thought to what Samit said, particularly around, support from the top end to scale the supply side and also building the carbon market. Um, so now, we have Rohit. So, Rohit, from the perspective of agricultural mechanization and your experience of building a large dealer and service network, what is the one ecosystem change you would prioritize?
Like, ecosystem consists of uh, a set of buyer and a manufacturer. I'll give you on the product or a manufacturer side. There are two type of capital which people need to look. They put too much capital in making a product, maybe a product or a service, but they certainly skip to give equally to a marketing budget, or you can say awareness budget, to aware the product and to this local level of people, right? The people in the village level, basically, I can say. So creating a product is one task, and getting the product to the market, creating is awareness, and creating awareness around the product, how it is used, what are the ROI of the product, it's equally important. So if there any change in a ecosystem, I should say people should think in a way where they put equally the same amount of effort in creating a product and also taking that product to the market via their awareness campaign specifically to this last mile market. So that is what I really want that ecosystem to learn and create a good product and take equally create a good awareness campaign to make that product go to the market.
Thank you so much. And I think, we are hearing about awareness, which I think at, CEEW or at our program, I think we take that very seriously. So I think what's particularly interesting is that although the three of you come from very different sectors, there is a clear message emerging. So we don't necessarily have an innovation problem, we have a market building challenge, right? So we have heard about the importance of understanding customer demand, building strong distribution and service networks, making financing accessible, and creating business models that work beyond the pilot stage. But we have also heard that markets cannot be built by the enterprise alone. There is a role for the wider ecosystem and particularly for the government in helping enterprises take some of the risk associated with entering and building these markets. One interesting idea that came through the conversation was the potential for a government-backed risk fund to support the supply side, helping enterprises absorb some of the early stage risk of developing, deploying, and scaling livelihood technologies. That kind of intervention could particularly um, give this kind of intervention could potentially give businesses the confidence and runway to invest in distribution service networks and market development before demand reaches sufficient scale. And I think that brings us back to the larger point. So if we want impact at scale, we need markets at scale. That means creating an ecosystem where customers see clear economic value, enterprises can build viable businesses, financiers can see a path to returns, and government can help de-risk the early stages of market development. Ultimately, the opportunity is to move from innovation-led pilots to commercially driven markets where clean energy solutions become not just technologies that benefit livelihood, but products and services that people actively demand because they make economic sense. So thank you, Samit, Shailesh, and Rohit, for sharing your experiences and perspectives. And over to you, Moshmi, to take it forward now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nimisha, for your wonderful questions and also beautifully summarizing the conversation during the fireside chat. And also a big thank you to all our speakers for making the discussion so insightful and sharing their experiences. And it has been incredibly enriching to hear about the journey from all the three distinguished speakers on how they have developed innovative solutions and look forward to partnerships, distribution models, affordable financing, and building the market ecosystem that is needed for these kind of solutions to scale. And I believe that after this conversation, there might have been spark of several questions among the participants which you would like to ask from the speakers. So to take the discussion forward and to open the floor for moderated Q&A session, now I would like to invite Mr. Sanam Jain to take the discussion forward. Sanam, over to you.
Thank you, Moshmi. Yeah, I would first want to hear, wait for anyone to raise any question, and otherwise we can bring in some questions. Yeah. Anyone from the participants? Would it be fine if yeah, Srijit, yes, please.
Yeah, thanks, Anam. Yeah. So my question is to Rohit Bajaj. So just one doubt. So you had mentioned that equal amount of importance should be given to marketing. And in the initial days, you said most of the customer outreach happened through online. So in a crowded market, when you're reaching out to your customer segment through online, what's the effective marketing strategy that you adopted? Because trusting a new brand, how did you make that happen in the initial days?
Market, as you correctly mentioned, Srijit, the market is crowded, but you need to pick a niche marketing campaign or a line. And for example, what we did, we said you can, to a farmers, we planned a campaign where we say you can use X machine doing a Y job and saving Z amount of money. That saving Z amount of money clicked the farmer. And that is where he got curious and started calling us, giving us a query. So in the market which you operate in, you need to figure out what actually consumer want. And if you figure it out, what consumer want, stitch a marketing campaign around that, and definitely you have a better marketing uh, campaign and results.
Got it. Thank you so much. If I can ask a quick follow-up question. Was in the initial days the online campaign regional specific, or was it across the country?
It was largely Hindi speaking. So now we are moved to regional campaigns as well to get a depth more vertically. But initial with the limited capital, we started with the language which we were comfortable at, and that was Hindi because I belong from Rajasthan, and our headquarters is at Jaipur. So Jaipur, Haryana, UP. So wherever we were Hindi speaking, we targeted those areas initially. But it was a broader campaign rather than being going very, very vertically.
Understood. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shrijit. Anyone would want to ask any question, please? Okay, I have a question. I'll put out the question. Anyone who would like to address, or I would actually want Sailesh, Rohit, and Samit to address the question. It will be great to hear from them because financing has been one of the common points that you three mentioned. So my question is simple. How can we improve the finance linkage for these clean energy solutions, particularly say both for low ticket and high ticket size products, as well as value added products? Anyone who'd like to go first? Yes, Samit.
So recently, I mean, many of you would be aware, right? So the government has started the Anusandhan National Research Foundation, for example, which has committed, and they've already, I think, doled out more than 2,000, 3,000 crores for research, and they are taking a big risk. It's on the lines of what, let's say, US does as under the National Science Foundation or the DARPA, etc. So I think it is important that somehow we are able to get to the ministries and ask them to start something very similar at the grassroots level for scaling these things where it's a risk. The government is taking a big risk with ANRF, but that is more for deep tech, science, materials, all of that, which is a little high end. But any other foundation like this, which they can put together, give out the money at that level, and these don't have to be large amounts at the farm level, right? We're talking of a few crores for each micro entrepreneur setup. So I think that could really change things. I think the appropriate ministries need to come together. There is the Ministry of Cooperative Development. I'm not very familiar with what they do, but these are the kind of people the ministries have to come together and not work independently in silos. So whether it's environment, agriculture, you have divided the urban affairs ministry now. So if you want to prevent people from the villages to migrate to the cities, I think these 4 5 ministries have to look at it holistically to see how can they empower entrepreneurship at the village level. So I think we need to move in that direction now.
And a follow-up question to that, do you think, Samit, as a technology provider, right, how much of influence do we have? Like, does a technology provider have on the ministry, or we want someone like CEEW and the team to take that role up? Like, what would be your take on that?
I think it has to be both. So organizations like Clean, CEEW, and several others that are there, along with 2 or 3 different sets of technology providers, right from the small enterprise space to the medium enterprise and the large enterprise. We need to first come together, create some kind of a proposal, take it through forward with organizations like CII, FICCI, and others to the government. I think the government today is listening. They are definitely listening. They can't act on everything because given the complexity that our nation brings, but the opportunity is there. I really feel, and I think the initiative, considering that CEW or Clean are the ones whose major focus is towards policy and intervention. It's something I feel that CEW in particular could take it forward, and we are happy to help and contribute wherever we can to structure the whole thing.
No, that's brilliant, actually. Yes, as you said, all these stakeholders need to come together. One last follow-up question on this. Any region or geography, state, or anywhere where you have seen a successful or a fruitful discussion with a government department in the sector that you're working in?
We did see a lot of intervention in Chhattisgarh, in these two places in particular for the cold room, where we tried to work together with the departments of agriculture, etc., to create tender specifications for the cold room, get them out. But that is typically done by any industry when they want to influence specs, but that's not the way to go about it. It becomes difficult. I think it has to come from the central government level now, where these ministries come together. Because if I have to take an example, Netherlands is one country which I figured where the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Environment, and Ministry of Sports is one. Because and it very beautifully articulates and says that if I do not have a good environment, people will not play, and I'll not have a healthy country. And they are amongst the healthiest country because the entire country is walkable and cyclable, right? So these three ministries have to work in tandem. So similarly, I think urban infrastructure is under stress. We know that, and the government has very rightly split it into two just a few weeks back, I believe. So these, along with agriculture, along with the Ministry of Water Resources, for example, so environment, everybody needs to just understand that we're all trying to solve the same problem. And I mean, that's my take on it. So I think, and maybe CEW, if you can influence it and takes it forward first, they've been very influential in a lot of policy work. WRI is there. So these are the people who could probably help create some umbrella fund which can then take it to the villages.
Thank you, Samit. Rohit, would you like to address that?
Yeah, just get me back with the question.
How do we create or how do we improve the financial linkages for the clean energy technologies? That was the basic question.
Financially, I can tell you my example, how we created financial inclusion in our category. So we have farm machines around, which are we keep it below 10,000 and above 50,000, or maybe above 10,000 for a easier I can say conversation. So what we did for these, we created two type of financing. One, we created for the product itself through Bajaj Finance or the NBFCs who work in durable goods sector, right? So as Shailesh also mentioned, there is a way as you pay as you go. But there are a lot of companies who cannot do it pay as you go. There are a Bajaj Finserv level companies who can give durable loans on your products. So if you can try to collab with them, talk to them. So there is one thing how financing can be enabled in these kind of sectors. Secondly, we do channel financing. As in our dealer get a credit, we don't go give as a company. A dealer get a credit, a loan or a limit you can say through NBFC, and we get payment in advance, and dealer need to pay within the 90 days. So that is where to cater a seasonal demand, dealer can do well towards stock in prior. So this type of financial inclusion we have done, and it worked well for us.
So you have enabled that link for the dealer, or the dealer did it themselves?
We enable the link, we be the anchor. We give the FLDG to the. So someone need to underwrite the risk. And
Yes.
banks and NBFCs are not really willing to underwrite the risk in these categories. Till the time you do not have a large enough book, the larger bank won't come up, the NBFC will come up, but still they have that risk, risk parameter to someone to address them. So we give FLDG. For the audience, FLDG simply means कि para loss आप पूरा करेंगे. So first loss will be covered by us as anchor. So that is how we need enable the financing.
Okay, great. Thank you. Shailesh?
So, Sanam, I strongly believe in the power of platform for scaling up things. And so if the market has to be scaled up, and we know that there is a demand in the market, I mean, this could be very wild, but the way India's digital revolution happened was through opening up of accounts under the Jan Dhan Yojana by the government of India. So crores and crores of accounts are opened up very, very quickly, and that's how we got connected digitally. Same way for a consumer to really avail or leverage any products or services. I think the best way here would be that government creates a platform which is easily available to the end consumer, and it makes it easy for all the product organizations, service organizations to remain available on that. So rest of the things ecosystem will take care of itself. So that platform itself will have the products, services, financing, all solutions will come on that. So that's what I strongly believe in. It also helps in future scale-ups also. So that's the larger thought I can share. Yeah, private sector, bigger organizations, for example, they may want to create platforms of their own so that they can get the lion's share of it. But if it is a public utility or a solar energy, I think government, if they create or they take lead in creating a platform available to everyone, there can be a large size scale up very much possible.
Fair point. Thank you. Thank you. Another question that I would have is, do you think if the ecosystem comes together and tries to support in overall post-sale service, like if I were to take the example of cold storage, right, in the overall cooling solutions, if there is a standard entity that provides after-sales service, as an example, because one company, of course, they can choose to have their service network in wherever they are working. But if there is a standard, created, first is the standard creation, standardization itself, and then if there is an entity, how much will that ensure that the adoption of these technologies is easier? Will that ensure? And if yes, how can that be done would be a question. Like,
If I share my thoughts on this,
yes,
since we've been working in the cold storage segment, it will definitely make things easier, because the biggest challenge remains that the connectivity to villages is not so easy for smaller organizations that are making cold rooms or cooling solutions. The service becomes difficult, and any machine needs to be serviced, right? I mean, the challenge that remains, when I said that we had success with Chhattisgarh or Orissa or West Bengal in terms of the government is paying for the equipment. The government gives out a tender for cold storages and then supplies it. So nobody owns it at the end of the day. Nobody wants to spend the money to repair it. However, a two-wheeler, everybody has it. A cell phone, everybody has it, and they take good care of it because there is no scheme by any agency to give it out free, right? So you take your own loan either for the phone or for the two-wheeler, and you buy it, and therefore you maintain it. So I think a standardized agency that can provide maintenance will be good. Of course, the various manufacturers would need to come together, and a degree of standardization or training would be required in the various solutions that are available to the entrepreneurs who come up and form this service agency. And we have a lot of educated, when I say educated, there are the ITIs and the class 12th or the various skills which the people at the village level learn, and they are waiting for employment. So easier said than done, but yeah, it is going to definitely help and increase adoption.
totally aligned. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else would like to put any thought on the question that I just asked? Like a common platform or a standardized after-sales service? I have a follow-up question otherwise, but yeah, wait for anyone to hear. Yes, Shri.
Yeah, I just wanted to put forth one concern on that idea of common creating a pool of service engineers for multiple products. So if a lot of such uh, if a training happens where a lot of people are trained on servicing various DRE products, and in their region, if there is not enough uh, installed systems, uh, then not enough revenue from those activities. So basically, they would never take it up as a job. So how can we address that? So shouldn't service be always around where the installations are? So yeah, so my question is it better to basically plan during the sale itself in a focused regions in clustered manner instead of scattered sales, or is it possible at all to have uh, service personnel trained across the country who can uh, cater to install systems? Yeah.
In my opinion, common service would be very difficult to operate. You can say at a upper layer it is fine. A common service center can do a diagnostic, little bit of product service. But if there is something in depth and requires special knowledge, common service would go really difficult. So it is a debatable topic as per my opinion. But common service worked very well through that common service portals in every state, I believe, for the applications of many type of application. But as a physical service, it's very difficult.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rohit. Thanks, Srijit. Another question that comes to my mind is so for example, what Mr. Sanjeev has mentioned about the government schemes. In the chat, he has mentioned about the different key schemes which are available for cold storage. It's just one area that he's talking about, like say if it is cold storage, it could be any other agriculture infrastructure as well and so on. So yes, there are these schemes, but I would want to hear from you, any of you, especially the three, on the ease of actually unlocking these schemes, be it AIF or any MIDH scheme, etc. Like if we were to talk about Rohit, like say as the sales and distribution vertical, if you were to say how easy it is, or would you actually take it up and actually talking to the government, unlocking the scheme for the end users?
But specifically for farm mechanization, there is already going on one scheme which is called SMAM, Submission on Agriculture Mechanization, SMAM, and which gives subsidies to the farmers. So, but what I am a believer that product should work in itself, and subsidies could be used as a temporary function to adopt your technologies rather than being a permanent function. So, yeah, for anyone who is into the entrepreneurship, use subsidies as an enabler, not a permanent solution for your product. If your product require a permanent subsidy, it is or some kind of a support, I think it is in a risk zone. However, to start with, it is fine. So you should use it in a nutshell. You should use the fund or the scheme which government is giving you. But individually, standalone, your product should also work. That is my personal style of working, or you can say that's my opinion on this.
I'm totally aligned on that, and that's what even we are focusing on, right? When we are designing and implementing market-driven models, that's what we want to do. But
Yeah.
when you talk about it from the user's perspective, उनके जहन में यही होता है कि हाँ यहाँ पे सब्सिडी इस चीज पे अवेलेबल है, हाउ डू वी एक्चुअली अनलॉक दैट, एंड इफ यू आर नॉट एबल टू गेट दैट सब्सिडी देन वी डोंट वांट द प्रोडक्ट. दैट्स व्हाट इवन वी हियर more often than not, right? So how do you cater to that from the enterprises or technology perspective? I'm fully with you on your thought, right? But from the user perspective, how do we actually use that, like counter that?
User want specifically to farm machinery case. In this case, user usually ask, do you have a subsidy on the machines? And as a company, it's our duty to get it registered in each and specific state. However, getting a subsidy is a second thing. If the state have a fund, or state have a fund and they apply it on time, they'll get the subsidy. But as you rightly mentioned, user is really concerned about the thing if your product is subsidy approved or the scheme approved. So as a company, it's our duty to get it approved. But however, it's not our direct link to farmer getting the subsidy or not. So consumer is always in our case, when we talk about farmers usually first question comes to us is, do your product have a subsidy? And we say, yes, we have a subsidy. You'll get it or not, it depends on your state fund. So that is how we address this question. But it is again, if the product is below 50,000, it is fine. If it above 1 lakh or between somewhere, so it is always subsidy dependent to the specific category which we deal in.
Yes, yes. Fair. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions, thoughts on whatever has been discussed so far? Okay. I have one last question. So, is there a way where we can actually address the sourcing of materials and critical minerals required for clean energy technologies, as like India's dependence on imports is high? How do we ensure that it is well equipped? Is there a way we can address that? It's like to everyone in the participants. Samit, can we hear from you? I can see you smile.
I think that's a very tough question. I mean, it's not easy because we do know that we don't have all these critical minerals in India, so we are dependent on various countries, whether it's South America, Australia, etc. But I mean, that's more at the deep science research level where I mean, we do know that Indian Institute of Science, IIT Chennai, they have been doing a lot of work in trying to find alternatives, different materials that could work. I mean, of late, there's a lot of confusion, I would say, around the E20, for example. These are looking at those kind of things where the government has gone ahead, implemented it. There is a risk, there is no clarity, but it does work. It's still keeping the car moving. So I think it's something that the country is looking at. I don't know if I have any thoughts on how it could be done better, but I think there's enough going on which we are not aware at in large institutes. We are looking at nuclear energy in a different way, not using uranium, but looking at thorium-based reactors, looking at other. There was a success recently down south, right, in terms of how the energy that we got. So I think there is enough work going on in the institute CSIR labs already. So that needs a lot of money. The government is looking at it. So I don't think I can add much to this.
No worries, no worries. But yeah, Rohit, Shailesh.
I think this question is beyond this cohort. That is what we cannot solve it. And it's a larger issue to be solved.
Sure, no worries, no worries. So I actually have one more question, especially for Rohit. You mentioned about how creating awareness should be given equal importance.
Yeah.
Right? When you're talking product has been made, yes, but how do you create awareness creation is equally important. So how for creating awareness, we need to identify the right target audience, right? And this connects to the point that Samit mentioned that maybe for a cooling chamber, farmer is not the customer. He or she might be the user, but the customer is an aggregator or an entrepreneur or a trader or a FPO, right? So that's the target audience well identified and defined. So while designing the marketing campaign, the awareness campaign, how do you actually identify that?
So it's a simple hit and well, it's not. We need not to apply more science to this reason because it has to be hit and try. What we did initially, we just throw the marketing campaign open. We got an initial set of customer. We sit and think through it. What is common between those customers? we put out a link, what is common, maybe it is a shopkeeper, or it is a pesticide dealer, or it is XYZ Corot, whatever the customer type, and then we target the audience. So it has to be like this. We cannot estimate who will be the real customer. Just through the campaign, you'll get some first customers. From that first come out, try to figure out some common pattern, and that is your customer, and then you can replicate it.
Fair point. Fair point. Totally.
Maybe if there could be a way to, let's say, train and fund the local community micro entrepreneur, because he possesses deep local trust within the area that he operates in, and they can act as your sales and maintenance hubs. People will go to them. He will be able to reach out to people. So if that can be done,
Yeah, that is be done. Samit, basically, we all farmers are having seeds, pesticides, and the rural community are getting things which they need in daily use cases. So, like kirana walas we have in urban areas, similarly seed walas or small kirana walas are in rural areas, and that are the channel to those last community. So you mentioned very rightly, and in our case also those kind of shopkeepers which have deep influence of the consumer there are our dealers or the channel.
Right. There is a very interesting chain. I think it's called Grow More, that is run by Coromandel Fertilizers. They are, they are one of the largest fertilizer companies in India, right? And I think in South Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, Andhra, Telangana, they have more than 700 Grow More stores, which is not just for their fertilizers, but they also provide knowledge, etc., to the farmers. And farmers tend to congregate there for access to, as you said, seeds or whatever be it. It is not limited to them. It is their private initiative as a company that they have started. But I think they cater to everybody. I'm not very aware of their complete business model, but I do know they have 700 or more than that in these 5 states.
Okay. We have a question from Niti. In case of DRE-powered micro cold storages, it is seen that among several farmer and farmer groups having possible use cases, they are still reluctant in micro cold storage usage despite getting subsidies, maybe due to the risk, insufficient finance, etc. So why is it and how can it be resolved?
So I think it's basically, getting subsidies from the government is not easy. It's there on paper, you can get it. Who's going to do the legwork? It's a lot of money. There are, we all know there are kickbacks of different kinds involved. That has become a challenge in the case of the micro cold storages that you're talking about. I also, the challenge has been, as I said, any equipment needs maintenance, and we have seen that after 1 year or 2 years, there is nobody who is in charge of that maintenance. And the manufacturer, which are companies like us, also have a limitation. You cannot be going there free to maintain a product. So that challenge of service remains. How can it be resolved? Well, we just need more transparent systems. I mean, while it is, as I said, easier said than done of putting a common service center, but perhaps if an effort is put in that direction, again, if the question boils down to who will get these set of people together first, who are willing to be trained on all the 7 or 8 different types of cold storages that are probably being set up across the country. I am sure the 7 manufacturers should be willing to train this service center guy to handle their product, because it will also increase the market for their own products if the product performs well and continues to perform well. So the challenge really has been the government, where a lot needs to be changed for the subsidies to be doled out easily. And if the manufacturer gets the subsidies, for example, in the case of solar panels or in the case of solar water pumps, where that's the case, the subsidies don't get given for months together. So I think even that is being changed now with the 45-day payment to MSMEs going through the threads. The government is, I believe, now making it mandatory for any government organization to ensure that the payment is released within 45 days. So there are steps in that direction. It will take a while to see how quickly they percolate down the system.
Perfect. Thank you. Niti, I hope your question was addressed. Yeah. Any questions? Anyone else? Or Priyatam, if you would like to add any questions. Priyatam?
I think we've fairly covered some.
Okay. Maushmi, over to you. Your voice is very feeble. Maushmi?
Okay. I was just saying there is one more question in chat by Pranjali. If you could just address that.
Pranjali. Hi, Pranjali. How can we make clean energy productive use technologies commercially affordable for farmers when manufacturers themselves cannot reduce costs significantly? And how can financial institutions become an enabling partner in the ecosystem while manufacturer remains focused on technology and market development? Yeah. Samit, Rohit, Shailesh. So the question is, the manufacturer themselves cannot reduce the price of the technology, but how can the overall ecosystem can reduce the cost, like be it for scaling, basically. If there is more volume, then of course the price of the manufacturing can come down. So it is again like a question where awareness has to be there that will enable adoption. And when there is adoption, there will be more sale. So it's like a chicken and egg situation a little bit. But yeah, if anyone would like to take that question.
I can add a bit to
Yes,
it.
please. Yes, please.
So there is already a lot which is happening on this kind of a scenario where, for example, the subsidies are either getting driven by funding from World Bank, or the government of India is bringing in their own subsidies uh, uh, through a lot of government programs, particularly the rooftop solarization at the household level. As I mentioned earlier, there is a big subsidy program, 10 million households to be covered under the grid tie inverters and hybrid inverters. So what's also happening is that the program is getting improved with inclusion of even hybrid inverters, and the size of subsidy will be further get expanded as the program becomes more successful. So and it allows the manufacturers and product suppliers to continue to focus on their products, and government and financial institutions, by offering lower rate of interest on the loans offered, they are also helping the consumers to acquire the asset here. So I think that's the model which has been followed across all parts of the world. And for example, in Africa, there are multiple these World Bank backed programs where the subsidy gets routed through the local government, and there is a continuous result based financing, which helps the manufacturers get their money, which helps the distributor get their money, as the product is seeded, as the product is distributed more and more to the end consumers. So I feel that certainly this would require a convergence of efforts and partnership between government, private sector, and financial institutions. So I think this is the model which has worked in past. This is the model which is still working. There could be several innovations on this, and each partner can play a different role depending upon the need of the consumer. That's what I feel.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think I'll add a point here that development, like as Pranjali has mentioned, the last point, like while manufacturers remain focused on technology and the market development is one of the key. As Rohit mentioned, right? Key. The product has been made. Awareness creation is very important. That's what market development means. You need to create the spread awareness about the technology, and for that you need to create the sales ecosystem focused on geographies. Like that's how I believe in the program that say we have been working on, that is a learning where geography specific development programs, market development programs do help. And for that, a dedicated sales team in every enterprise that needs to be there, because to develop a sales ecosystem, a sales team or a sales executive is one of the key in the enterprises team, I would say. Pranjali, I hope that addresses your question. Okay, I think Maushami, over to you and Vidya.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Sanam, for facilitating this discussion. And thank you to all our speakers for patiently responding to the questions, whichever has been asked. I believe this has been a very insightful session for all the participants, and the experiences shared today have provided useful perspective on what it actually takes to scale clean energy powered livelihood innovations to scale. With this, now I would like to formally close today's session and would like to invite Ms. Vidya to deliver the closing remark. At the end, Vidya will also share one QR code with you that comprises of a 5-question feedback form. Would be great if you all could quickly share your feedback after this session. So, Vidya, over to you.
Thank you, Mausami. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. And thank you so much to all the speakers for such an insightful and engaging discussion, and to everybody who joined us. And as we close the session, I'd like to briefly reflect on some of the key takeaways and action points. One message that came through clearly across all 3 perspectives is that technology is just one part of the equation. Whether we are talking about clean cooking or distributed solar or farm mechanization, scaling requires building the market around the technology with demand, finance, distribution, quality, and after-sales services, and customer trust. And a few key points stood out, which is like clear customer value, and then finance at both ends, strong distribution, and then solutions need to demonstrate tangible value, whether through higher incomes and greater productivity or reduced losses. And financing needs to be at both ends, whether be it like end user financing or enterprises or suppliers. And we also need trust and after sales and enabling ecosystem. So if we were to distill today's discussion into one simple framework, it would be demand, finance, distribution, trust and services, and enabling ecosystem. And underpinning all this is commercial viability. And with that, I would like to thank our speakers for sharing their experiences and insights, and all of you for taking the time to join us. And before you leave, I would just like you to take a moment to fill out the feedback form, which I will share. I will share a QR code, so kindly scan that.
Vidya, are you sharing the image or the QR code? It's not visible.
Okay, just give me a moment. It's a bit stuck.
But meanwhile, I have also shared the link with all the participants in the chat.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, it's visible now. Would request all the participants to share their feedback for the session. I hope everyone has scanned the QR code. So Vidya, now you can stop sharing your screen. And once again, thank you all. Thank you all the speakers and all the participants for joining today's discussion.